Morning, everyone. It's wonderful to join so many people here today to talk about rail, to talk about transportation choices, and certainly the goal of the agency that I now represent, Department of Rail and Public Transportation. Our goal is to reduce the number of single-occupant vehicles, to help address peak time congestion, and to maximize the use of the infrastructure that we already have. And we know across our nation and across Virginia that when people have quality transportation choices, that their ridership will greatly exceed what was projected. Look at the Tide and how proud we are of the ridership there. Or over in the Lynchburg area, 2009, the state brought up their first state-sponsored passenger rail. Ridership right out of the box was 3 times what was projected. So it just shows we're searching for transportation choices. Now, 2 years ago, Norfolk Southern, in the midst of one of our high-speed rail public hearings, stood up and offered to bring conventional speed train service into Norfolk. First time since 1977 that Norfolk's had service, and for the first time out of Norfolk, we'll not only go west, like we did before to go to Cincinnati, but we'll be able to connect and go north into Richmond, DC, New York City, and all the way to Boston. So that's very, very exciting that that's taking place.
Part of my job is to deal with people across Norfolk Southern's 22-state network that want to run passenger trains on Norfolk Southern tracks. And by promoting passenger rail on a state basis, and by avoiding a lot of the hype around high-speed rail, Virginia has moved more rapidly and more cost-effectively on passenger rail than any other state in our system. And that's going to be shown not just by the Lynchburg train, which has been running for a few years, but by the Norfolk train. While a lot of other states are in the midst of planning or studying or trying to put things out to bid, Virginia's running trains and it's going to be running more trains. So in this case, I would say Virginia and Hampton Roads is a leader in this case. The current path, Thelma talked about connections to Washington and the Northeast Corridor. If you look at the intercity transportation patterns around here, that's the overwhelming direction. So I think that's really the best choice. The other thing to focus on is really how cost effectively this is being done. One of the big states we're involved with is North Carolina, who's planning for a substantial expansion of their passenger service, but they're doing it about 3 times the cost of Virginia with not a measurable difference in the product. And by doing...
Let me tell you, first of all, what the EDA is. We're a political subdivision of the Commonwealth with a mission to create jobs, maximize the utilization of Norfolk's real estate, foster business capital investment, increase revenue by growing the tax base, and support minority and small business. The authority has 7 members who are appointed by our city council, 1 member who's here tonight, Randy Wright's here today. The office is located on Main Street in downtown Norfolk, and Chuck Rigney is our current director. Like many intercity passenger rail corridors, the demand for all travel in our corridor will grow strongly in the future, with trips nearly rising 40% from the present 48 million to 70 million by year 2050. These increases will put significant pressure on the corridor's transportation resources. They're dire right now, as we know. The importance of passenger rail to the future growth and development of our city and the entire Hampton Roads region cannot be overstated. Norfolk is ecstatic about the arrival of the passenger train. Service to our downtown and towards the end, services to our downtown area. Towards that end, we are developing a transportation center at the new rail terminal station at Harbor Park. The ability to link city centers is a hallmark of passenger rail systems, and the Norfolk terminal will be servicing more than 4.2 million square feet of office space in downtown, and of connections not only with our new Tide light rail system, but also with a bus, the ferry to Portsmouth, and taxi connections, making it truly a multimodal facility, effectively linking the entire our region to the whole area.
Have watched this for some time, and I get the feeling that we're either at a turning point or very, very close to a turning point. when you think that we had 1,000 people show up at a public hearing about a year ago, some 300 here today, the fact that the final EIS, Environmental Impact Statement, is reportedly going to be released by the federal administration sometime in the next month or so. That'll be a watershed moment in time. Just last week, the Transportation Planning Organization, the TPO in Hampton Roads, reconvened the Rail Task Force with some gusto, I might add, and with a decision to robust that organization to include 4 mayors, and fortunately Mayor Frame will be the chair, and to move from the idea of meeting twice a year to every other month. I was at a national conference last week on high-speed rail, and my takeaway from that conference is kind of mixed, but basically it seems like it's inevitable for this nation. If 50 years ago we went down the path of interstate highways, necessarily we're going to go down the path of interstate rail. I want to quickly say that on my right-hand side, Director Thelma Drake and Norfolk Southern, faced with a situation, like Thelma said, where we didn't have a train running, faced with a situation where we didn't have a service development plan, and faced with a situation where this region had not previously, for 10 years more or less, decided whether it should come down the peninsula or south side. With those absences, they did a miraculous job, and we're going to have a train this year. Thank you for the train that's going to come this year. It's absolutely spectacular.